uh, if somebody asked me, which book will you pick out of everything you have read? If you only could get one, let's say, to an interstellar voyage.
Right.
And I tell them always the same answer. Even though I was raised Catholic, I was a little bit Mason, a little bit Rosicrucian. I tell them, but since I'm Mexican, the J in Mexico is inherited from the Arab culture in Spain. So it's Alejandro. This is something I have never talked too much about with anybody but my wife. And it's a theory I have because I realized that there's not one single voice. Not that I'm schizophrenic. No, not that.
Yes, I understand where you're coming from.
I don't claim myself to be an expert on anything, but I have a lot of experience and I work a lot of different situations. And thankfully, I have solved them every time successfully, although not without some scars and some hard lessons learned.
That'd be great, Alejandro. What is your plan for the rest of the day?
Well, today I have to do some of the voice acting, which is long. The project was supposed to be
kind of stuff, short story film kind of stuff?
It's for training AI.
Training, you mean?
Well, LLM, you can call it LLM. Probably there's in other models, but it's for the model to be able to express emotions, not just be the typical plain sound, like speech-lo.
Are you acting out the emotion and recording it?
And it's very hard.
It seems a very fun project to do.
Oh yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, and it has two things. One, it's helping me a lot with my voice, and my expression. It's helping me a lot. Second, it's well paid. It's not just a few bucks an hour. It's well paid, and the most important part, it's helping me to assess my emotions. And my wife was very happy because she's a psychologist. And I was telling her that I had to see some YouTube videos of voice actors. There's not much material there, but I found some of the Japanese voice actors. They're called the seiyuu for anime, and it's impressive how they tell you need to move and act the emotion. And what happened to me the other day is that I had to gasp, start speaking like this. And I got dizzy. It was so defying for my body that I'm not used to breathe like that. And I was impressed. When you get mad, you suddenly have a few minutes to calm down because it's really fun. It's really fun.
Did you were very fascinated by anime, industry before?
Oh, I'm the oldest otaku you might meet. Do you know the term otaku? Those who watch a lot of anime? It's you people who's like...
I was confused whether I should confess or not. But some people kind of see it as not a mature way of watching. But I am a very huge avid fan of anime. But I'm sorry that we call them weeb in my generations.
No, actually, my oldest memory, I was just a baby, 6 years old, no, 5 years old. And my family, I was born at Mexicali. It's a city at the northern part of Mexico, the northernmost city. And we came back to Mexico City because my mother's family lived here. And my father got a promotion and was moved to Mexico City. So one of my oldest memories is that my cousins who were older and were going out with my uncles and everything. And I was too little to go to the place they were going. So they left me home with the nanny. And I remember her sitting me in front of television to watch an anime called Marine Boy, which was a kid Marine Boy. It was a kid that used like a gum and threw it up and he could breathe under the water. That's my oldest memory. And I watch anime ever since. I'm watching Demon Slayer recently. And, my wife loves it. I love it. It's a great story. And I think there's stories that are better than what Hollywood puts out many times.
Oh, far better. I even watch like goofy animes. Gintama? I think.
Oh yeah, of course.
I love the One Piece, animes which are Attack of Titan, which is like a very serious punch production kind of stuff. But most of the time I'm goofing around with these kind of, animes which are not that much stressful to watch, because One Piece and all needs like 100% commitment to watch. This episode means a lot, right? But I also like. Have you heard this anime known as Ghost Stories?
Yeah, I think so. It's one from the 80s or so. It's not new
Not new ones, because even censorship has played a lot around this anime thing. Ghost Stories English dub is like the funniest thing to watch. I think it has 2 seasons or something, and the anime director was like, "We have a dub version, which we have money, and this is kind of a test or a fail, win or a fail situation. So the dubbing artists were given a free pass. You can do whatever you want, and dubbing artists are like uh, turned right funny, racist, in the borderline of
I want to look for that, Ghost Stories, that's the name?
ghost story. Let me just give me a double check, because you have to see the English dub one, not the sub. Sub is good. So it's like a anime on a group of kids who went to a school to study, and one of the kids' grandmother or something has like a ghost book.
Mm.
Mother was like a ghostbuster, in like ritualistic ghostbuster, and this kind of sweeps up the children, and they have like it's a horror anime genre, but it's more like a comedy genre. You have to watch the dub one. It's like downright racist sometimes, but so funny. Censorship made like jokes much restricted nowadays. You can make jokes about in the anime, but not the social issues or something like it, stand up. But before the censorship was there, this dub came out, and this is like downright fun to watch.
They have even disappeared some Looney Tunes cartoons because they were considered racist. You could watch them before, now they are not available. It's like, well, that's crazy. That's
Because everything is very sensitive in this era. Everybody, like even in the online space, I'm like hoping those animes are not pushed up to the online space, because if somebody gets offended in some way of content,
oh, yeah.
like a really big dramatic reaction towards it.
Somebody once was asking me if I felt offended because of Speedy Gonzalez. And I was like, no, it sounds like, I see some people like that. Not every Mexican, but a lot of look like that and speak like that. Besides, they are not putting Speedy Gonzalez as a loser. He's the good guy. So it's weird. I don't feel offended. I find it funny.
I think it's like the developed country mindset versus the developing country mindset. I moved to UK for like 3 years before, and how I approach a person is entirely different from how I approach a person from back in India. People are more delicate, like you have to make the interaction very pleasant. Back in India, you can kind of touch and go on interaction, whereby people are not that much offended by your comments or something like that. They just take it as a fun part. But here, people are really serious.
Yeah. And, that's funny. Have you heard of the Myers-Briggs personality types? It's something that came out of Carl Gustav Jung, the psychologist. And there are like, you will find it 16 personalities. It's the place. There's a free test that will tell you what kind of personality you are. And it gives you all the pros and cons of your personality. No one's perfect. There's no better personality. It only tells you, you have these good traits that you should exploit, and you have
Right.
these deficiencies that you can convert into advantages if you know how. Of course, they will sell you the documents so you can read and perfect yourself. But there's a lot of free material there. And I am an INTJ, which is a type of personality that it's the lone worker, the lone ranger.
That's right. Like,
And the usual INTJ, especially the immature ones, the young ones, are very intolerant. They are expressionless. They usually are very direct. They will tell you things without caring about nothing. But I'm an old INTJ. I learned that some things you have to correct and be
right.
not as direct, because I was the kind of person that will tell you whatever came to my mind because I had the information and the perfect answer. What I had said and hurt everyone in the room. And I would like, what? I told the truth. I'm the good guy here in the snow. You can tell the truth, but you can soften it. You can put some sugar in it. And sometimes we need better shut down.
Try to change. How do you change personalities? Like personal development is a very vague area whereby people are very eager to change it, but the change doesn't really affect a person, or you can't really change it. How did you change it, like consciously?
You know,
Because most of my life was I was like going and studying like uh, what was this that psychologist Fred Sigmund Freud.
Mhm.
And it really didn't resonate with me in some ways. It's a very cutthroat way of putting a person's mindset. But then later on, I recently got introduced to this Adlerian psychology, uh, which which is more like you said, if you want to live a happy existence, you kind of have to change your personality to be much more warmer, right? And Adolescent psychology kind of says it's because there are two pillars of life, whereby one is a community feeling should be there for a person. If he's working or if he's not working or anything, like he should have a communal relationship. And how he deals with the communal relationship is the root cause of all this, trauma, existentialism kind of stuff.
You know, I always say we are individuals and a group at the same time. So we need to balance that. You know, as a young person, I had the individual part very high, and I still have it. But I know that the group part is going to help me a lot. It's going to give
Right.
me some things that I cannot do by myself. And one important thing to consider about that change is that it has to come from you. If somebody tells you you have to change, no, nobody can tell you what to do about yourself. But if you feel you have to change, then pursue that voice. I started when I was like 28. I knew I had to adapt myself because I was very different. My personality type, and strangely, my wife, both personalities, we're like 3% of the population. So we're considered weird because we see things other people don't. It's called introverted intuition. So we see patterns. That's why I'm good doing data analysis, because we see patterns others don't. And people tell me, "Hey, where are you seeing that information?" So when I show them, they go like, "Ah." That's because not because I'm a good mathematician or something. It's because it's something in your brain. You know, it's you see stuff, feel stuff, and uh, I was doing good, but I felt change was really painful, because there were things I needed to adapt. So I found this thing called neuro-linguistic programming, in which it's based on psychology. Yeah, there's a lot of charlatans in there, but the foundations are right, because I get in there because it was the engineering of change, and it's true. When you work on yourself, it's great. When you try to induce others to do stuff, that is not what it is for. But a lot of people, are, as I told you, shortcuts.
Author who is like, which is a good source of NLP training kind of stuff.
Well, the two creators, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, are the best. Of course, they are also, they have their own quirks. They are strange people too. But I mean, it's a general information to understand that the way you talk to yourself is what creates your own reality. That's the main thing. Forget about the techniques, and it's how you have your inner world and how you speak to yourself. So I got there. I learned a lot of stuff, but it was in parallel with, I'm an engineer. I'm a scientific guy. My father was an accountant. Very, he had a incredible memory. But there's in my family, there's this mystic part. My great grandfather was a Mason, a family of Mason. My father was also a Rosicrucian, and my father induced me to read mysticism from a young age. And I realized that change, when you embrace a wider view of things, not your own little world, you see the whole. You realize
Yeah.
everybody tells you nobody's indispensable. Okay, what I will tell you, if somebody, so let's say in a company, they tell you that a lot. And I had that discussion with my nephew, which is a CEO of his own company. And he tells me nobody's indispensable. Okay, nobody's indispensable. but nobody's going to be like a particular person either. It's a unique experience, a unique experience. So you have to feel yourself like that. It's, you're unimportant. If you die tomorrow, the sun will go out and everything, but nobody will see the world the way you see it. So you have to value yourself, but at the same time, understand you form part of a bigger thing. And I think the way to change is to start understanding how many things are really coming from your ego. And,
Oh yeah.
and there's a weird thing. I've read a lot of mysticism and stuff like that. You couldn't believe how much I have read about that. My main book, uh, if somebody asked me, which book will you pick out of everything you have read? If you only could get one, let's say, to an interstellar voyage.
Right.
And I tell them always the same answer. Even though I was raised Catholic, I was a little bit Mason, a little bit Rosicrucian. I tell them the Gita. It's the only book I will take with myself, because it tells you some. I don't know. I'm not from India, and I don't understand how that is seen there religiously. I see it from an outsider, but I see it as the inner dialogue. Krishna is your higher being, and Arjuna is yourself. It's the constant dialogue you're having. And the main thing I learned from there, it's karma yoga. Live
Right.
in a way in a way that you do not produce bad vibes, bad karma. Try to do things. Don't do excessively good things, because that can be bad. Don't do
Right.
excessively bad things, because that's even worse. So try to live in a way where you give enough, but you also take enough. And that's when the change starts. When you see yourself as an actor of your life, you realize that everything has an action has a reaction. So you want to do something, great, do it, but beware of what's going to happen afterwards. So you want to say this phrase, say it. You're free to say it. But if somebody kicks you on the face, you are to blame, nobody else. Or let's say you want to change your job, there are risks, but there might be rewards. So be aware that whatever you do, it's on you. And
Right.
your decision is personal, but lean on your family, your friends. Try to get with. I don't mean be friends of everyone, because that also doesn't work. But be open to find people. Like my wife. I met her when I was 40 years old. Yeah,
Okay.
and I was previously married, but she is her first marriage, and she's perfect. You know, and we are very in love after 10 years of marriage. We are very happy, and the thing is, accept that some things will take time. Change will take time.
Yeah.
Stuff will take time, and the way to change is to be good to yourself. You have to be your own friend. Don't be harsh
Mhm.
with yourself. Understand you're human. You make mistakes, because a lot of people are very harsh with themselves. You know,
I think like when you are young and you have this very logical mindset or mindset, where it's like this is right, this is wrong. There is no like gray area in between. It would be really hard to make friends and also maintain a conversation because uh, half of the conversation goes you kind of say, oh, that's kind of a dumb decision. Can't you see it?
have you seen? There's a new series in Apple called Murderbot. Have you seen it?
More robot.
Murderbot, like murder, the killing someone. Murderbot. If you can see it, watch it, because the robot is trying to free himself. So it's very funny, because he's trying to make a program to disable the control module that keeps him on the control. And when he does, it's like, wow, it worked. Something like he doesn't even know what he did to do that. So he's having a dialogue with somebody, but at the same time, there the character is speaking the inner dialogue. It's like, of course I will do it. This guy is an idiot. That was me 30 years ago.
Wow. How did you find the inner chatter stuff? Is it like um, getting NLP or is it like a meditative state or something? Do you practice anything to calm your
In
noise?
your inner dialogue,
Right.
that's something this is something I have never talked too much about with anybody but my wife. And it's a theory I have because I realized that there's not one single voice. Not that I'm schizophrenic. No, not that.
Yes, yes, yes. I understand where you're coming from.
For example, sometimes you are like a little baby. You feel sleepy and hungry, and you're like, oh, I hate these people. I want to go away. That is not your inner voice. That's your body talking to your mind, telling you, I'm uncomfortable. But that's not your inner voice. Usually, my inner voice, it's very weird because it gives me instruction. I'm thinking about a problem, and then suddenly a thought comes like, you should do this, and that. Oh, yeah, that's true. It's like your subconscious mind sometimes coming to the front and telling you, hey, it's so obvious, do it this way. No. And usually that voice is very calm. When I'm feeling stressed, I'm talking to myself. I talk to myself and I go like, you should calm yourself, think about this, be more considerate on this situation. I know that's my inner voice because it's forgiving, never, it's never harsh with me. It's always right. I cannot debate with that inner voice. And it's always right and tells
That's
me
right.
stuff that feels right. Any other kind of thought that makes me angry and other things, it's the ego, it's your body, it's something else triggering your inner voice. So it's very hard.
Is it, you know what, that kind of loop goes whereby you assume that you're going to have a 3 hour work session and you don't make that 3 hour work session. And there is one voice which is turned on automatically, which kind of criticizes your process, right? Oh, you never stick to your timetables. You need to push yourself harder. But the other voice is more like a voluntary voice, whereby, like, if I want to imagine a flower in my mind, I start my imagination of my flower in my mind. Is that the inner voice? If so, if that work time has not been completed, then one voice comes and automatically starts speaking, saying, oh yeah, you want to stick to your schedules, but you need to do that in tomorrow. You have to pull your stuff together. And another voice which we manually start, no, no, don't get panic, tomorrow is there, or
That's your inner voice. That's your inner voice contradicting your ego, which is going, you should work fast. You should do this and that. Because that's your ego, because there's a danger of looking bad in front of, let's say, your boss or somebody else. So it panics very easily. The ego is the worst. That's why every mystic religion tells you, get rid of the ego. And I will tell you, it's like a little kid who is always whining, always complaining. You should do better. This is wrong. When you stop listening to that bratty kid, then you start listening to the other voice, which is more like, okay, you need to do this fast. You need to concentrate, but you are tired. Maybe take a half an hour nap and then you go back to this. It's more rational. It's more practical. It's something you can easily do. The other one is like your boss. You should do this, you should do that, and do it quick and change that. And that doesn't look good. Change. Okay. It's like, shut up, ego, and let the other voice come forward and tell me what should I do, because and that's another issue. Not everyone has the same inner voice, and I learned that from my psychologist. I was having a chat with him and told me some people don't actually have like a very chatty inner voice. They feel more like a tension in some part of the body, like butterflies in their stomach. They feel fear, they feel something, but only a few have this inner voice. He asked me, does your inner voice is like a teacher? I was like, yeah. How do you know? Because that's a kind of inner voice that it's very rare, and it's very easy because it's very direct. And the thing is, that inner voice, the ego, everybody has the ego, that thing going like, you should do better, or go quick and do this, or change that, or lie, tell a lie so you can get ahead. That's the ego. Everybody has that. But that other inner voice, if you have one like that somebody speaks you calmly, or it's like yourself. Some people think, are you schizophrenic? Do you hear voices in your head? No, it's like myself.
is that voice generated by me at that time, or is it my inner voice? That was my main question whenever I'm like thinking about it, right? Is it is it my inner voice? That means, like, am I generating it? Like, generating, if I want to see a flower, I imagine the flower, now I'm consciously generating it. Or is it like an inner voice? Should it be an automatic generation? Like, I see a problem, I think a solution, but I'm not trying to get that solution from my information deck, but it comes up in my, like a intuition or a hallucination for the deja vu kind of stuff, Is
Yeah,
that or is it something that we create?
yeah. I don't know exactly because I don't think humankind knows exactly how that works. There was a theory in the past, the two, something like the two-chamber brain or something like that. When the Greeks thought that the gods were talking to them, it was actually them talking to themselves.
Right.
So they thought that voice came from somewhere else. Now we know it comes from us. Now, how is that generated? I don't know. But it's not the same as picturing a flower, because picturing a flower is something like a Gen AI. You call the model and you generate it, but there's no emotion related to that strongly. But that
Right.
voice is always related to a situation. It's an answer, not something you put forward voluntarily. It's something that comes up not when you call it. It's you're in a certain situation and then it starts talking to you. It's like
This searching a long time for this intuitional feeling, and there is a ton of pseudo gurus out there who are like intuitional. Mostly, women are more in a very pedestal gurus in that feeling of intuition, and most of the framework like literally has no effect on me. I'm like, well, where is this part in me? Your mind with the sphere was, is it my intuition or is it my conscious thinking that is making the better decision?
it's a combination because there's intuition too. Sometimes you see a problem and you cannot catch it on the first tries, but suddenly a spark comes. Like, oh, I know now. I have an idea. Or sometimes you dream it. Have you had that situation that you dream a problem?
Not, not with a solution.
And that's the interesting thing. You have a back end and a front end.
Right,
And the
right.
back end, there's a very good book. It's old and it has some concepts that uh, modern psychology has somehow improved. But the important part of that book is that it generated a lot of interest in hypnosis. It was written in 1888 by Thompson J. Hudson, and it's called The Law of Psychic Phenomena.
Okay.
The guy was a lawyer and an investigator, and suddenly he went deep into this stuff. So his insights are very naive, were very good. I have read the book, and I was fascinated by it because it tells you literally that you have a back end, something processing behind, and it tells you the conscious mind is deductive, meaning that you give them the you get a lot of information and they generate a lot.
Yes, yes.
But the inner voice, the back end, is inductive. That is, you give them just a few parts and then it generates a lot about that. What's the meaning of that? If you're a person that's always saying, oh, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, whatever, it's like a seed. That's your conscious mind repeating something like a mantra. I'm an idiot, I'm not good. That's a seed that falls into the subconscious mind, which is like a pot with earth. It will get there, and then you get the flower of idiot, stupid, you're wrong, a whole jungle of under appreciation of yourself. So that mind, if you're balanced and you have a good development on many ways, you will feed it with good stuff. So the seeds will be good. So we'll give you back a lot of stuff that it's good. If it is bad, if you're constantly denying yourself the fact that you can be an incredible person or that you're good at some stuff, it will be a real burden. But the good thing is that you can change it. If you change the way your conscious mind works and talks to yourself, that inner voice will come back to you with different stuff. And I'll tell you one test of how good that inner voice works and a proof that it works. How? I don't know, but the proof is, let's suppose that you're trying to remember the name. Let's say that happened to me 3 days ago and I did the test. I do this all the time. I wanted to remember the name of the singer of the band Simple Minds. I don't know if you have heard that band. And I didn't remember. So there's a trick you can do. The Rosicrucians teach you this. Much of those groups are using actually psychology, nothing else. It's not magic. It's not spirits invoking in any time. It's only psychology. So they tell you, if you know that you had a piece of information, but you cannot recall it now, stop and say, what's the name of the singer of Simple Minds? Okay. And forget it. Don't think about it. An hour later, oh, Jim Carrey, that's the name. So you send the request to the server. Sometimes the API is not very fast, and it returns the information. And it's incredible how it works. The other way it happened to me is one day I changed my keywords. We use a lot of accents in Spanish. So I have a keyboard without accent. But before, years before, I worked with keyboards without accents, and I just press Alt and a number, the ASCII number, and it gave me the character. And I remember I was with this keyboard back again without accents, and I asked myself, how do I write? What's the number of the E with an accent? And I was asking myself, my hands typed it, and I was like, who did that? It was my subconscious mind. I
I
asked.
think these books, sorry to interrupt, I think these books are very cyclical in nature. Um, all of these concepts that you have been said, like, I have not read the exact book, but maybe an author is defining it in a different way. Like you said, like frontal brain and the back brain. I read some book recently saying one brain is lazy and one brain is like very talkative. This lazy part of the brain is where like problem are actually solved, and the uh, a good uh, you know logical and reasonable solution is being made, and there is another part in the brain which is like constantly saying, but the lazy part has only a very small energy battery in that, so it doesn't work that much. Like, where are my keys in my room? I don't have to think. I just go there and pick it up. But where did I leave it? Even though seen my previous key in my eye somewhere, I know that information is in my brain somewhere. This active problem solving mind, since it's lazy, it doesn't give you answer directly. Maybe speaking to it louder is making okay, it's my time to do the work, and the API is calling in that time of buffer. The cybernetics might be another book that I read, which is close to this theory.
But that's interesting because, but the only thing that I don't like about what you say is like called something lazy. It's like it's giving it less value. I will say it more. It's more energy efficient in the sense that it uses low energy, so you cannot put it to do a lot of stuff because it will consume all its energy. It's more like a short-term memory where
Right.
it's like RAM. I call it. But the conscious mind is RAM. The back end is your data
Pure
warehouse.
heart.
It's funny when you use the client server vision to see how the mind works. Somehow it works very well. And that's the thing. You need to, in the same way you train physically to have a fit body, you need to train your mind to be fit. In the West, we don't do that at all. Mexico is like an emulation of the United States, a bad copy of the United States. So we do a lot of what the Americans or what we call them the gringos do. It's we copy them, and in that way we don't have a very. They have a lot of psychologists, no, but it's not. You go to the psychologist in the way you go to, let's say, like a chiropractor, and I know I feel a pain in my back, so cure it. The mind doesn't work like that. Therapy is long term. Sometimes it's short term. For example, my wife works a lot with kids, and it's very successful because she does short term therapies. She doesn't get the kid dependent on her for years. She wants to work quick and solve the issue. And if the thing goes beyond to our neurological situation, she then directs that to an expert in neurology and stuff like, or a psychiatrist, which can give you medicine for that. The thing is, we need to train our mind. Yeah. And I remember the way I trained it was creating, uh, reading a lot of topics, especially stuff you don't like, things you really say, this is against what I do. And why do I feel this way? Why do I contradict this? Because does it mean that I'm right and this is wrong? Or maybe I'm wrong and this thing is right? Or maybe neither my way of thinking is right. But you read it because that way you start challenging yourself. And am I actually thinking the right things? It is based on something I really believe, but that takes years. Of course, as you mentioned, when you're young, when you're an adolescent, you think you know everything. So it's sadly you waste your time when it's the time where you should be learning this stuff, you know. and and what I will say to anybody who asks me, it's like be. I was very close to other ideas. I knew exactly what happened. That's the characteristic of the INTJ. You know, I knew what was right, and usually I was right. That's the problem, you know. But in specific areas, when it came to more interrelations to feelings, I thought I was right, but I was actually blocking myself from feeling because that's what the INTJ does. It blocks feelings and analyzes everything, converts everything into a process. So feelings are a process. Later in life, you realize, nope, this is not working. This is not the way it goes. And you start asking yourself. To me, the first question was, how do I make this interaction with people, this change, less painful? You know, it's about pain, and start searching a way to end that pain. And you know, up until this day, I'm challenged dealing with certain people. You know, especially maybe it's a prejudice, but I hate CEOs. You know, I can't stand those guys. They think they know everything. They think with that an MBA will give them exactly the same knowledge I have in project management. I'm certified, yeah, I'm PMP certified. It's like, why do you think you know everything? Why do you think you have the answer? Why do you think later I understood it's like an actor, you know, you hire an actor for a role. That's what companies do. They hire actors. They don't need to be well, they should be good because otherwise the company is going to flop. But in reality, they put too much on the actor part on I'm this intelligent guy capable of doing everything. Picture Sam Altman or Elon Musk, those guys that think they know everything. uh, and it's hard for me to deal with people like that. My you know when I have been a manager, I don't put myself above my team. I'm usually think of them as my equals, but I am
Right.
honored with the leadership part. That's why it's always a burden because I feel like I cannot fail as a manager. Forget about the results for the company. I cannot fail for these people.
Right.
They are more important to me than actually the company is important, but these people are more important because they are under my care and I was assigned to guide them. If I
Right.
take the wrong direction, they all go behind me. But these
It's
guys
our
are like,
responsibility to lead this team as well.
yeah, yeah. But these guys feel like, we humans are expendable. They can use humans for their greater goals. And, I have 5 more minutes and I would like to
Right.
leave you with a thought because if you see in LinkedIn, I've debated a lot. INTJs love debate. So if you ask me about anything, I will debate it to death because I love it. It's like Mexicans like football. I'm not that kind of Mexican.
Okay.
Mexicans hate debates. So I'm like an anti-Mexican because I love debates and hate football. And the thing is, AI is something I like to debate because my position is quite radical. I'm telling people we're not going to get to AGI using silicon and copper. You know, our brain works with 20 watts only and works with glucose and fat. That's what drives. We're not going to emulate with GPUs and consuming thousands of watts what we do in our brains. We need a new kind of technology. Some people talk about what it's called wetware. Have you heard of that? It's more like chemical computers that are reacting and doing stuff, or more biological like computers, something that it's more akin to the brain. Otherwise, we will never get something thinking like us. It has to be this size, not
Right.
like a building with stuff. So I don't think we're going to get AGI using just computers. We need a new kind of technology that resembles more something biological. But the debate here with AI is that it's a generational test. What does that mean? Remember when you might have seen any 1950 pictures, science fiction pictures of uh, beings, aliens living on the moon or Mars, and you see like, oh, that's cute. If we define badly the concept of artificial intelligence, future generations will look at us like that. Look, oh, how cute they were, thinking that was intelligence. Oh, that's nice. But there's another dark side to this, and this is a species defining situation, because if we go the wrong direction and we use it wrong, I don't think there's going to be any singularity or apocalypse or Terminator. Not that. I mean, the bad use of the copyrights, the false image, creating videos of people to
Yes, like that, right?
yeah. If we don't understand how these things are really useful for us, it's going to be a hard hit on society, and it's going to destroy society. And what makes this bubble different? Because I know it's a bubble, everybody knows it's a bubble, but what makes it different? People don't talk about that difference. We must remember that the United States defined this as a national priority. No previous bubble was a national priority. So let's be careful, because the powers behind this bubble are really puffing hard to make it big. So that's what I want to leave you with, because it's a very. Have you heard of the book, The Empire of AI?
No,
Let me share with you here. Um, it's
big thing. 2030 agenda kind of stuff was there, and maybe that might be a contributing factor.
come again.
Yeah, I got the book. Uh, Bill Gates and other
Ah,
world leader, like 2030 agenda kind of stuff, like uh, no poverty, digital currency, equalated, like wealth is on digital stuff rather than physical stuff, equal pay, equal, everybody who have food and accommodation. So maybe it's like a contributing factor to that revolution. And AI and technology, you have to be in a smartphone, you have to be in a Instagram, LinkedIn, might be a contributing factor to something more, a bigger revolution in the next century or 2030.
oh yeah, yeah, and that what you mentioned, that everybody has a phone, Instagram, and everything. Actually, ChatGPT is not a service for you or for me. When
Right.
we interact with it, we're giving them the way we think. We're giving them their psychology. So they're creating models behind the scenes, and they sell that to governments, to the army, whatever. So it doesn't matter that ChatGPT makes money or not. It's the models behind that they're generating that neither you, neither me will use. We won't have access to that. Maybe we have the millions they're going to charge. So we're actually giving away ourselves. And the the way they're going to get, remember the Spring Revolution idea? In Egypt, what was the name? Spring Revolution or Summer Revolution? There was something like that. And it was generated through Twitter, you know? That was a social
That's
experiment.
all right.
Yeah, so
Let's be, our data socially is currently on somebody's hands. Like what our purchase behavior is somebody's hands, which we have no control to even delete it, right? But now it's like therapy also is inside GPT. People are doing therapy, and now someone who has access to that data can sell or do any kind of propaganda they want, because they know this kind of person is this. So if I hit this pain point, he will be susceptible to my, you know, turn.
what why tell people is predators in nature make things good, excellent. Certain flowers or stuff, look, carnivore flowers or certain animals look like innocent things in front of you, or they have a good scent and they got you. Beware of things that look perfect, like the perfect ad, the perfect song in a commercial way. Be careful of the perfection, because maybe they are luring you with information you gave them. You know? Thanks.
It's wonderful talking to you, and you have a good, like, more than your analytical or data related stuff. You have a really interesting worldview and psychology.
Yes. But you know what's the funny thing? Where are you right now? Which city?
UK, Liverpool.
Okay. Oh, funny. One of my nieces is in London. She won a scholar, an art scholar. She's an artist, like my mother. So she lives in London. You know, you're in Liverpool. Where were you born in India or Pakistan?
India, India.
India. In which city?
It's a Karnataka city. I live in Kerala, but I was like born in Karnataka area.
Okay, so there's a whole different world there than here in Mexico. Yet there are a lot of coincidences, which is part of the universal culture of obviously the British Empire years ago, then the United States, previously the Netherlands and their company. There's an homologation of culture, but it's a funny thing. Even though we've been in different routes, there's a lot of coincidence in ideas, and that's something very interesting and something we need to appreciate. Because I know there are a lot of people like us out there. So probably your blog and your videos might reach them. So I hope you are very successful with it. And anytime you want to chat about, I'm open. You want to have a call about something, I'm really glad. I'm very chatty and like to spit a lot of ideas out of my head.
Well, that's really interesting, bro. I hope I meet you in person someday, man.
I hope so too.